Hi, my name's Janet. Welcome. I was born in Ottawa. After high school, I went to a program called Storefront, which is a 2-year program for adults with developmental disabilities. And then I went into the working world. I'm on my own. I don't have a roommate. I used to have roommates, and I just couldn't handle them or get along with them. So I like living on my own.
Maybe I can give a little bit of background of how Janet came to live in this building. A number of years ago, this organization that supports Janet, LiveWorkPlay, got a grant from the government to purchase affordable housing for people with developmental disabilities who were able to live pretty independently. And they did a lot of research in the community, and first they decided that condominium apartments would probably be a good way to go. They were very much of the philosophy that people with developmental disabilities should be integrated into the community, and they should be in some place that was an inclusive building. And they discovered this building that had a number of units for sale, and it was a pretty stable community in the building, and that they thought would be supportive to people with developmental disabilities. So LiveWorkPlay purchased a number of units in the building with the government grant, and some of them were 1-bedroom, some 2-bedroom. So they arranged for roommates, and at one point I think they had a worker who actually spent a lot of time during the day in the building, and they had another woman who lived with her sister, who was a LiveWorkPlay member, and she provided some overnight emergency support. But as time went on, LiveWorkPlay decided as an agency that they didn't want to be in the landlord business, that they wanted to focus their services more on the role of people in the community and employment. So they decided they would sell these condominium apartments, and the first thing they did was offer them to the families of the people who were already living there. So that's how we came to purchase this apartment at a very reasonable cost, because LiveWorkPlay wasn't in the business of making any profit off the real estate. And a number of the other families decided also to purchase the condominium apartments. So the families got together through that process, and we did a bit of negotiating with LiveWorkPlay. We partnered on getting legal support for the transaction, and it took quite a bit of time for that transaction to go through, because it involved the Ontario government, the City of Ottawa, 2 ministries of the Ontario government, but eventually that all worked out. So that's how Janet ended up in this very nice apartment in a very nice building with good neighbors. Around this way. So one of the important things about a location for someone to live independently is to have good access to public transit. So having a bus stop right outside the building is terrific. Although unfortunately the bus doesn't run very late at night.
Yeah, it doesn't run very late at night.
So sometimes Janet has to walk from the transitway home, but she's figured out a route that she feels pretty safe walking. Or often she has friends walking with her.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we going now, Janet? We're going to take a walk?
Yeah. We're going to go to my favorite spot.
I've seen lots of pictures of this spot. You like taking pictures here?
Yep, I like taking pictures here. Even though I work at Wichita, I like hiking a bit, but I'm not really big into camping anymore, or biking. I used to be into biking.
What happened?
I got scared of biking or fell off my bike, so that just ruined my confidence.
It went too fast, the bicycle.
Yeah, went too fast and then it was a little too big. I like walking. I like playing sports like basketball, soccer. I like going out to places, meeting friends. Doing Friday nights with LiveWorkPlay is fun because we do different activities and we get to pick the activities.
We're going to go down here?
Yeah.
I think challenges that, from my perspective, have been mainly financial ones, or that's what comes to mind. When Janet first moved into this building, they just put in individual metering for hydro in each unit. So the first month we got the hydro bill, it was something like $280, which we hadn't expected at all. And we learned after that we have to, because it's electric heat, electric air conditioning, so we learned after that we have to really keep a close eye on the hydro consumption. But then subsequent to Janet moving in, the Ontario government introduced a special rebate for low-income people for hydro, and that actually has meant that Janet hasn't paid any hydro for the last year. In fact, she has a big credit now with Ottawa Hydro. So there's one expense that we were worried about, and now it doesn't seem to be a problem. I guess the other expenses relate to owning a condominium, that there are common expenses and there are every now and then special assessments, especially in an older building like this. So we know that there's going to be new windows put in all the apartments in this building, and that's going to cost, there's going to be a special assessment of all the owners for that. So that's something that it's not a huge concern for us, but when we think to the future, will there be more expenses like that, and how do we plan financially for the long term? That's a bit of a concern. So even though we thought it was the perfect financial solution, that we made the investment and we could control Janet's expenses, we're now more aware that there's going to be some ongoing expenses associated with owning a condominium. So I've mentioned that as parents we were interested in purchasing a condominium so we could control Janet's costs. So she lives on ODSP, that's her income, plus she has a job a couple of hours a day, so that gives her some more spending money, which is really good. But we charge Janet rent that's equivalent to what ODSP provides for housing, which at the moment is $489 a month, I think. And I know Janet's sister lives downtown in a bachelor apartment, and she pays $850 a month, which is a real bargain for. So it's definitely good for Janet that she can just pay that much in rent. But then on top of that, and I have to say that rent basically covers the condo fees that we have to pay, and probably the property taxes. So we take maybe a bit of a loss on that. When we bought the condominium, it also came with a parking space, and we've found somebody else in the building that was interested in renting the parking space, so that's a little more income that helps. But other expenses, and I think for most people on low income, they still want to have television, internet, cell phones, and so we have a bundle with Rogers, and all of a sudden I realized a couple of months ago that the deal that Rogers gave us had just expired, and the Rogers bill went from $112 a month to $184 a month, just like that. I guess the other costs Janet has are for food, and that's a tough one because she doesn't do a lot of grocery shopping and cooking for herself, so most of the food costs are either going to Farm Boy and buying prepared food or eating out. I know your favorite places to eat out. McDonald's is probably still the number one. And it's probably one of the most economical places to eat, but not necessarily the healthiest. And I mentioned the hydro earlier, that we're not paying any right now. Those are the basic living costs of living here. And we're able to cover them with ODSP, and there's still a bit left over for unexpected things, for clothing. That's another ongoing expense, but Janet's pretty reasonable on that. From your point of view, Janet, do you have enough money to do the things that you'd like to do, or?
I think so. I work at Bush Taka. I've been working there for 5 years. I work there Monday to Friday, 8 till 10. I do clean the store, so I clean around where the clothes are, I clean the change rooms, clean where the footwear is, I vacuum, I sweep, I vacuum, where everything in the store.
And that's before the store opens in the morning?
Before the store opens.
Yeah. So you've been at Bush Taka for 5 years?
Yeah.
And none of the other employees have worked in the store for that long.
No.
There's some that have worked there and gone away and then they've come back, but Janet's the longest standing employee. So that's a good message. People with developmental disabilities are very loyal employees.
Yeah, loyal employees.
And have you ever been late for work?
Nope.
And have you ever missed work without letting them know?
Nope.
So Janet gets paid minimum wage, and the minimum wage in Ontario has just gone up significantly. So her paycheck went up significantly. And ODSP takes some of it back, but never all of it. So now Janet is a wealthier woman than she used to be. She has more pocket money, more spending money. So I try to get her to save a little bit of it so she'll have something to spend on vacations but that's hard, eh? Mm-hmm. Saving is very hard. So Janet, who do you go to in your building if you had any problems, or?
I'd go to Mike and Teresa, who are superintendents, and they've been there for a long time. Mike's really friendly, so if I have a problem, I'd go to them.
And what kinds of things does Mike do, or does he tell you to talk to somebody else, or?
Some problems like there's office numbers and stuff like that, but he can get people to help me.
And Mike and Teresa are both good listeners.
Yeah, good listeners, yeah.
Yeah, they might say, Janet, that's not really a big problem. It'll be solved in an hour, so don't worry, something like that, eh? Yeah. And if she's out late at night, she usually phones and lets us know that she's home.
Or text you. Yeah.
Or texts us. And sometimes we're asleep and we wake up in the morning, there's a text from Janet, or we hear it beep when we're asleep and we say, oh, that's Janet. She's okay. So the modern communication devices help us, both of us, to feel secure, I think. Well, it's nice you get to show your place to other people.
Yeah. The nice area I live in.
It's a beautiful area. Yeah. You're very lucky.
Yeah.
Are we on the bicycle path right now? Or just a walking path?
Walking path.
Okay, so we're not going to have bicycles speeding by us.